Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're specifically going to talk about Vecna Eve of Ruin, and we're in Chapter 10, and it's really fascinating. So Chapter 10 is ostensibly, not really, about, in my humble opinion, about Cass the Betrayer of Vecna. But it's not real, okay? So Mordenkainen is supposed to be Cass, Vecna's minion, right? As written in the adventure. But that's not real, in my humble opinion. So basically, this is the first time this has ever happened in a D&D canon hardback, and I think it's the first time it's ever happened in any OSR or in any tabletop role-playing game product. No OSR or no indie product has ever done this. And the reason why is Dungeons & Dragons always bushwhacks. It always cuts the new path, and then everybody follows after. So Amanda Heyman has done something brilliant. So if you read Chapter 10, what it says is, Cass the Betrayer is going to betray Vecna. He has stolen the Rod of Seven Parts from the players, right? The Dragon Master characters. And you're like, no, he hasn't. No, there's no way any group of Dragon Masters are going to, get every piece of the Rod and Seven Parts and then hand it to some NPC to say, why don't you run off and win the adventure for us? There's no Dragon Master group in the world who would go with this plan. I don't care how much Illustriel says, hand it over to Mordenkainen. I don't care how much Tasha says, hand it over to Mordenkainen. It ain't going to happen, right? Like, it would never happen with me at the table as a Dragon Master. I'd clutch that thing, man. Are you kidding? Right? There's no two ways about it, right? So at this point, the book is saying, Cass the Betrayer disguises Mordenkainen, reveals himself, and then runs off to Pandesmos. And what he's going to do, and actually he runs off to free Miska the Spider Wolf. Oh, and also one of Law's generals is there, right? And so there's these two big adventures. Now what's interesting is Amanda Heyman literally puts in this chapter, you don't need any of this. It's literally written in there. She's like, you might not need any of this, right? They might be able to, there's a good chance your player characters are just going to go straight to Vecna, right? Go straight to Vecna and challenge Vecna with the Rod of Seven Parts. Of course, right? So why is Chapter 9 and Chapter 10 there? Well, it's the first time this has ever been done in any Dungeons & Dragons product. It's the first time it's ever been done in any tabletop role-playing game product. The book is trapped. The chapters are traps. The chapters are key solutions to manage metagamers. And so we've had this problem for tons of D&D canon hardbacks where they're like, run it the way it's written. And you're like, well, if I do that, anybody who's read the book is just going to ruin it for all the other players, right? Well, what Amanda Heyman did was she took 2 chapters of the book and said, you're a completely unimaginative metagamer. You have four great Dragon Masters at the table, right? The red, white, and the blue are great, right? They're gonna do what they need to. The black is great, but the green is a real jerk, right? You got 5 players, but one of them is a jerk. Oh, why is that jerk still at the table? Because this isn't the OSR and this isn't the indie. This isn't indies. They would have cut this player out. They would have been like, oh, we only play with perfect, loving, haloed people, right? Like, and you can go kick rocks, Bob, right? We don't do that in Dungeons & Dragons. We fix them. We literally fix the people. We're like, hey, let me yank those horns off your head, and here's a halo. Done, right? That's what Gary built this for. I think, right? So they're like, yeah, you're still getting your halo geared on, right? And so it's pretty interesting in that, so she built these 2 chapters to say, you're not going to run any of this, right? All this is for your schmuck metagamer to read, and then for you to take the obvious path, right? And not obvious to most people, just obvious to the most charismatic, confident, intelligent people in the world who are Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Masters. Not any OSR runners, right? You're not going to find anybody like that on the OSR side. You're not going to find any charismatic, confident, intelligent people running OSR or running indie. None, right? Maybe Kelsey Dion, right? But she's taking her crown off. She's not king of the OSR anymore, right? She's like making solo adventures of Shadowdark. Well, you want to talk about like the worst waste of resources I've ever heard in my entire life? Kelsey Dion building solo versions of Shadowdark. That is like, yeah, you could have ruled the OSR with an iron fist. You could have, swept over and been like D&D lead right? If you had set it as a goal, but instead she's creating like solo versions for Shadow Dark. Unbelievable. It's like be like if That'd be like if you took a senator and they were mopping the floors. Like, it's just the biggest waste of resources I've ever heard of tabletop role-playing game design talent. The most massive waste I've ever heard. It's astonishing. All right, stay focused. So, chapter 10 is, Cass the Betrayer's going to run off and get Miska the Wolf Spider. And, there's a Loth General. Ignore all of that. These 2 chapters are only here for your metagamer, horrible player to read. And for you, and this is a wall, for you to let them run this is a virtual wall, for you to let them run headlong and smash their virtual nose and virtual blood spills out. This is a trap built for metagamers. Chapter 9 and Chapter 10, if you understand Vecna Even of Ruin, if you've read it directly, it sets a new pattern for all D&D canon hardback adventures going forward. That there's turnkey solutions to manage metagaming. And it was built, the solution is built on Dungeons & Dragons. It's built into Vecna Eve of Ruin, right? But only dedicated, engaged dungeon masters are going to understand what's actually happening. It's pretty astounding, right? So Chapter 9 and Chapter 10 of Vecna Eve of Ruin are actually functionally boxes that contain a key. And that key is to turn, and once it's turned, you have made your Vecna Eve of Ruin completely safe from any metagame. And what it means is Mordenkainen is Mordenkainen. The Rod of 7 Parts is absolutely critical to defeating Vecna. Or the Betrayer is a Lustriel or Tasha. Any of those 3 will work. You cannot run it straight. You cannot run it straight, right? Now, there are going to be people who run it straight, and then they're going to run over onto YouTube, and they're going to like, it's broken. No, you're broken. Your ability to understand genius when it presents itself to you is non-functional, right? Like, this is not you reviewing the book. This is the book reviewing you. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.